Welcome to the dark side of human history. In this chilling true crime compilation, we dive beyond the headlines and into the twisted minds of some of the most sinister yet lesser-known serial killers in history. These are not the infamous names like Ted Bundy or Jeffrey Dahmer, but shadowy figures whose horrific crimes have largely escaped mainstream attention. Prepare yourself for a gripping journey through tales of horror, deception, and cold-blooded murder, extended to give you even more chilling details and context. Buckle up, this is going to be a dark ride. Carl Eugene Watts. The Sunday morning slasher Carl Eugene Watts, known as the Sunday morning slasher, was a predator who operated in the shadows, largely undetected for years. Active in the 1970s and early 1980s across Michigan, Texas, and possibly other states, he is suspected of killing over 80 women, though some estimates suggest the number could be closer to 100. Born in Colombia in 1948, he confessed to killing over 300 young girls across Colombia, Peru, and Ecuador during the 1970s. He targeted vulnerable children in bustling marketplaces, luring them with promises of gifts or food. Once isolated, he raped and strangled them, often burying their bodies in mass graves in remote areas. While the exact number is debated, the evidence supports a staggering body count. Watts believed he was on a divine mission to rid the world of evil women he deemed witches. His attacks were brutal, swift, and often random, targeting women as they walked alone or entered their homes. Shockingly, due to lenient sentencing laws in Ecuador, he was released in 1994 after serving just 14 years. His current whereabouts remain unknown, fueling speculation that he may still be active. Known as the Blood Countess, she allegedly tortured and killed over 600 young girls between 1585 and 1610, though some historians debate the exact number. His apartment was filled with thousands of manga and horror videos, sparking debates in Japan about the influence of violent media. Once there, they endured unspeakable tortured beatings, burnings, and mutilations. Legends claim she bathed in their blood to preserve her youth, though this may be an embellishment. Over 300 witnesses, including survivors, testified to her atrocities, painting a picture of a sadistic predator. He lured boys to remote areas under the guise of conducting scientific experiments involving controlled suffocation, which he claimed would help them grow stronger. In reality, he tortured and killed them, filming the acts with a camera. His obsession with death and asphyxiation drove him to document every detail, keeping journals and reels as memories. But behind this facade, he was a depraved killer who murdered at least 7 boys. 1964 and 1985, sentenced to death in 1997. He was executed in 2008. His case remains a chilling example of how isolation and obsession can manifest into unimaginable evil. Instead, she was confined to her castle under house arrest until her death in 1614. Slivko was executed in 1980, but his ability to hide behind a mask of respectability for decades shocked Soviet society and highlighted the dangers of predators in positions of trust. Her story has inspired vampire folklore, including tales of Dracula, and remains a haunting reminder of unchecked power and cruelty. A socially isolated man with a troubled upbringing, Miyazaki developed an obsession with horror manga, anime, and child pornography. This fixation fueled his gruesome murders of 4 young girls, aged 4 to 7. The lack of justice in his disappearance makes his story one of the most terrifying in true crime history. He used various methods: strangulation, stabbing, or drowning, leaving little evidence behind. Unlike many serial killers, his crimes lacked a sexual motive, which baffled investigators and made profiling him extraordinarily difficult. Born in 1953, Watts exhibited disturbing behavior early on, torturing animals and fantasizing about violence. He taunted families by sending letters describing the murders and even mailed remains to one family. He kept body parts as trophies, believing his actions would somehow connect him to his deceased grandfather, whom he idolized. By age 15, he attacked his first victim, but it was only briefly. His ability to blend into society allowed him to evade capture for years. In 1982, he was finally arrested after a survivor identified him. Shockingly, a plea bargain allowed him to confess to some crimes in exchange for a reduced sentence, initially set to release him after just 24 years. It wasn't until 2004, when DNA evidence linked him to additional murders, that he was sentenced to life without parole. Watts died in prison in 2007, leaving many cases unsolved and families without closure. His elusive nature and the sheer scale of his crimes make Watts one of America's deadliest and most mysterious killers. Pedro López and the Monster of the Andes. Pedro López, dubbed the Monster of the Andes, may hold the grim record as the most prolific serial killer in history. His traumatic childhood shaped his monstrous path. Abused by his mother and later assaulted while homeless, he developed a deep-seated rage against young girls. Arrested in 1980 after a failed abduction attempt, led police to over 50 graves, confirming his horrifying spree. Tsutomu Miyazaki, the Otaku killer. Tsutomu Miyazaki, known as the Otaku killer, terrorized Japan between 1988 and 1989. Miyazaki's crimes were grotesque. He abducted his victims, murdered them, and mutilated their bodies, sometimes engaging in necrophilia or cannibalism. Arrested in 1989 after attempting another abduction, Miyazaki's trial revealed the depth of his depravity. Elizabeth, the blood Countess Elizabeth, a 16th-century Hungarian noblewoman, is often cited as the world's most prolific female serial killer. Used her wealth and status to lure peasant girls to her castle under the pretense of employment as servants. Due to her noble status, was never formally tried. Anatoly Slivko, the Soviet monster. Anatoly Slivko was a respected youth club leader in the Soviet Union, admired for his work with young boys. Slivko's crimes were meticulously planned. A surviving victim's testimony led to his arrest in 1985. The discovery of his films and notes provided undeniable evidence of his crimes. Slivko was executed in 1989, but his ability to hide behind a mask of respectability for decades shocked Soviet society and highlighted the dangers of predators in positions of trust. Charles Cullen, the Angel of Death. Charles Cullen, a nurse in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, used his medical expertise to become one of America's most prolific serial killers. Between 1988 and 2003, he had killed an estimated 40 to 400 patients, though the true number may never be known. Cullen administered lethal doses of drugs like insulin and digoxin to patients in hospitals and nursing homes. He claimed he was mercifully ending their suffering, but many victims were stable or recovering. His ability to move between hospitals without background checks allowed his spree to continue undetected for years. Arrested in 2003 after a colleague noticed irregularities, Cullen confessed to multiple murders. His case exposed critical flaws in the healthcare system, including lax oversight and inadequate tracking of medical staff. Sentenced to multiple life terms, Cullen remains incarcerated. His crimes a stark warning of the dangers lurking in trusted professions. The Martfű monster, active in Hungary during the 1950s and 1960s, was a serial killer whose crimes were compounded by a miscarriage of justice. Wrongly convicted of a murder in 1954, was released after serving time, only to begin a deadly spree targeting women in the industrial town of Martfű. Stalked women riding bicycles home from factory jobs, attacking them in wooded areas. He raped and murdered at least 6 women, spreading fear through the community. His methodical approach and knowledge of the area made him difficult to catch. In 1968, new evidence led to his arrest. The revelation that he had been wrongfully imprisoned earlier added a tragic layer to his case, as it allowed him to kill unchecked. Was sentenced to death and executed, but his story remains a haunting chapter in Hungary's criminal history. Dorothea Puente. Dorothea Puente ran a boarding house in Sacramento, California, in the 1980s, presenting herself as a caring grandmotherly figure. In reality, she was a ruthless killer who murdered at least 7 elderly and disabled tenants to cash their social security checks. Puente poisoned her victims with drugs, often lacing their food or drinks. She buried their bodies in her backyard, all while maintaining a facade of kindness. In 1988, a social worker's suspicion led police to uncover the graves. Puente fled but was soon captured, convicted in 1993. She maintained her innocence until her death in prison in 2011. Her case serves as a chilling reminder that evil can hide behind the most unassuming faces. Joachim Kroll, the Ruhr hunter. Joachim Kroll, known as the Ruhr hunter, terrorized Germany from the 1950s to the 1970s, killing at least 14 people, including young women and children. Kroll lived a solitary life and targeted victims in the Ruhr region, often luring them to isolated areas. His crimes were marked by extreme violence, including rape, mutilation, and cannibalism. Kroll kept body parts in his apartment, and his confessions revealed a chilling detachment. Arrested in 1976 after a neighbor reported suspicious activity, Kroll's trial shocked Germany. He was sentenced to life in prison and died in 1991. Yang Xinhai, China's deadliest killer. Yang Xinhai, active in China from 1999 to 2003, confessed to 67 murders and 23 rapes, making him one of the country's most prolific serial killers. Targeting rural families, he broke into homes at night, killing entire households with tools like hammers or shovels. Yang's motive was rooted in personal grievances, including a failed relationship. His nomadic lifestyle and lack of consistent patterns made him hard to track. Arrested in 2003 after a routine police check, he was executed in 2004. His spree exposed vulnerabilities in China's rural policing at the time. Evil often hides in plain sight, wearing the masks of trusted nurses, kind landladies, or respected community leaders. These lesser-known serial killers may not dominate headlines, but their crimes are no less horrifying. Their stories remind us of the fragility of trust and the depths of human depravity. Thank you for joining us on this unsettling journey into the darkest corners of human nature. If you're hungry for more chilling true crime stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious.